We are discussing the chapter 6, combustion and flame. In this chapter, what we have discussed already in our previous videos is what is combustion? A substance when undergoes heating, and by that heat, that substance burns to produce heat and light energy. That process is known as combustion. The substances which burn to produce heat and light energy are known as combustible substances, and the substances which does not burn are known as non-combustible substances. Then after that we have discussed the types of combustion in this chapter. The first one is this rapid combustion. The form of combustion, the type of combustion in which a substance burns at a very rapid rate, very quickly to produce heat and light energy is known as rapid combustion. The example is the burning of petrol, the burning of wax candle. That is the example of rapid combustion. The second we have discussed was spontaneous combustion. The form of combustion in which a substance undergoes burning on its own without the use of any external heat. That is known as spontaneous combustion. The next one is explosive combustion. The form of combustion, the type of combustion in which a substance undergoes burning with the production of heat, light and sound energy. A loud sound is produced during combustion, that is known as explosive combustion. After that, we discussed the conditions necessary for combustion. It's a very important topic for your exam. What are the three conditions necessary for combustion? The three conditions necessary for combustion are: the first one is combustible substance. There must be a combustible substance available for burning. Second one is the supporter of combustion, that is oxygen or air. In the absence of supply of oxygen or air, combustion would not take place. Third one is the attainment of ignition temperature. What is ignition temperature? The minimum temperature at which a substance catches fire is known as ignition temperature. And for a substance to catch fire, attainment of that temperature is must. Some substances have low ignition temperature and some have high. That's why petrol burns quickly as compared to kerosene, as compared to wood. Why? Its ignition temperature is low. Then we discuss the topic firefighting. It is a process, it is a phenomena in which the unwanted fires are prevented, are controlled. Two major principles are used in this firefighting procedure. The first one is we lower down the temperature of an object below its ignition temperature. जो बच्चे ignition temperature है, हम एक object का temperature उससे कम कर दें ताकि वो substance fire catch ना करे. Second one, we cut the supply of oxygen or air so that in the absence of oxygen or air, there would be no combustion takes place. Now, moving forward, in the continuation of that chapter, the topic, we'll discuss water as a fire extinguisher. Water is the common source used to extinguish fire, used to stop fire. Why? Because first thing, when water is poured over a substance, water lowers down the temperature of that substance, and henceforth ignition temperature is not achieved. जब बच्चे हम किसी सब्सटेंस पर पानी डालेंगे वाटर उसे वेट कर देगा, वो गीली हो जाएगी और उसका टेम्परेचर कम हो जाएगा. That lowering of temperature will not allow that substance to reach its ignition temperature. और टेम्परेचर कम हो जाएगा तो उसका ignition temperature अचीव नहीं होगा. अगर ignition temperature अचीव नहीं होगा, the substance does not catch fire. वो substance fire catch नहीं कर पाएगा. So that's how water helps as a fire extinguisher. Second thing, when we pour water on the fire, the water gets that heat as well. Water को भी heat मिलेगी. Then that water will be converted into water vapors. So water vapors will convert हो जाएगा. those water vapors will cover the combustible substance. वो combustible substance को क्या कर लेंगे? Cover. And by covering that combustible substance, the supply, the contact of oxygen to that substance is broken down. जब उसने कवर कर लिया अपना, मान लीजिए कंबस्टिबल सब्सटेंस से ऊपर वाटर वेपर की लेयर आ गई, तो बच्चे ऑक्सीजन का कांटेक्ट टूट जाएगा एंड henceforth combustion stops. We broke the fire triangle ultimately. So that's how water will act as a fire extinguisher. But still, water has certain limitations. As a fire extinguisher, water has certain limitations. कुछ पाबंदियां हैं, कुछ रुकावटें हैं. The first one is water cannot be used in case of electric fires. We cannot use the water when the fires are caused due to electric shocks like short circuiting. In case of short circuit, live wire comes in contact with neutral wire and that will result in fire. In case of electric fires, if you pour water over that fire, then water is a good conductor of electricity. Water conducts electricity. So the person who is pouring it can get electric shock. Water current को बच्चे conduct करता है और अपने में से current को pass होने देगा. तो अगर बच्चे इलेक्ट्रिक फायर मिल गया बेटा, तो अगर उसके ऊपर पानी डालेंगे तो वो पानी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी को कंडक्ट करेगा और वो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी उस पर्सन को हार्म करेगी, उस फायर फाइटर को हार्म करेगी. So to prevent that shock, to prevent that harm, water is not used in case of electric fires. It's a very important, a very good question. So why we do not use water in case of electric fires? Because water itself is a good conductor of electricity. What that means? It allows the electricity to pass through it. So, in case of electric fires, if we pour water, then that water conducts the electricity, and if the person comes in contact of that water, that person may get an electric shock. And that electric shock may be harmful, may be fatal, जानलेवा भी हो सकता है. So, to prevent that shock, we cannot or we should not use water in case of electric fires. Second, water cannot be used or should not be used in case of fires caused due to petrol or oils. Diesel, petrol, kerosene oil, these are oils which may cause fire. In that case also, water should not be used. Why? Because the density of water is less than the density of oil. जो डेंसिटी होती है बच्चे वाटर की, वो ऑयल से क्या होती है बच्चे? ज्यादा होती है, नॉट लेस बेटा. सो ऑयल विल कम्स ओवर द सरफेस. वाटर की डेंसिटी ज्यादा, जिसकी डेंसिटी ज्यादा होती है वो नीचे जाता है और जिसकी डेंसिटी कम वो ऊपर. तो ऑयल ऊपर आ जाएगा बेटा. मान लो बच्चे पेट्रोल पे आग लगी, मैंने पानी डाल दिया, पानी नीचे चला जाएगा, तो ऑयल विल कम्स एट द अपर सरफेस, सो इट विल अगेन कैच द फायर. ऑयल अगर ऊपर आ जाएगा तो दोबारा से फायर कैच कर लेंगे. यू मस्ट हैव सीन द स्टंटमैन्स व्हिच fire themselves and then dive into a pool. What they do is, first of all, they dip themselves completely into the water. पहले अपने आप को पूरा पानी में भिगो लेते हैं. Then pour some water over it, petrol over it. Petrol will remain on the upper layer beta, and they catch fire. When that fire comes in contact with water, it will extinguish because of low ignition, because of the low temperature as compared to its ignition temperature. Ignition से कम टेम्परेचर होने की वजह से जब जैसे वो आग पानी के कांटेक्ट में आएगी, वो आग बुझ जाएगी बच्चे. So, in case of oil and petrol, the water cannot be used because the density of water is greater than the density of oil. And the substance which have higher density will settle down at the bottom, and the substance which have less density will come at the surface. So, in that case the oil will come at the surface and again catch the fire. So that's why we cannot use water in case of electric shocks as well as in case of fires caused due to oils or petrol. Next we will discuss carbon dioxide as a fire extinguisher. Carbon dioxide being heavier than oxygen settle down at the surface of a combustible substance. Let us suppose it is a combustible substance, beta. When it comes in contact with CO2, then CO2 surrounds it. Carbon dioxide surrounds itself around it. As it is heavier than oxygen, so it will settle down. And the oxygen contact is breakdown. The oxygen cannot be comes in contact with this combustible substance. We cut off the supply of oxygen to the combustible substance and thus fire get extinguished. Aag bujh jayegi. So that's how this carbon dioxide is used as a fire extinguisher. Being heavier than oxygen, it will settle down over the surface of a combustible substance, thus breaks the contact of that combustible substance with oxygen. And if oxygen is not available, that substance does not burn, does not catch fire. Next thing, carbon dioxide is very useful in case of electric fires as well. In case of fire to the electrical equipment as well. Why? Because CO2 being a gas is an insulator of electricity. That is, it does not conduct electricity. So if a person is using CO2 as a fire extinguisher, that person will not get any electrical shock if that CO2 is used for the electrical equipment. You must have seen the red boxes in the hospitals or in your schools, hanging there in the middle of the corridors. These are fire extinguishers. Those are foam type fire extinguishers. They release CO2 in the form of a form like a shaving foam, and that extinguishes the fire essentially. So now we'll discuss that fire extinguisher, the foam type fire extinguisher. This fire extinguisher has a mode. It has a large container. In this container, a solution of sodium bicarbonate or carbonate is there, along with saponin. What is the function of saponin in that? Saponin forms the foam. Jhaag banayega saponin along with the CO2. There is a nozzle through which this foam comes out of it. There is a container present in that. That container has aluminium sulfate. Draw this diagram. This diagram is very important. What happens when we pull this knob, when we forcefully pull this knob, this aluminium sulfate container will goes down. Niche gir jayega. As it falls down, aluminium sulfate comes in contact with sodium carbonate or bicarbonate. Both can be used. Bicarbonate as well as carbonate. Aluminium sulfate, when reacts with it, when it comes in contact with this sodium bicarbonate, it starts to produce carbon dioxide gas. Reaction occurs between aluminium sulfate and sodium bicarbonate or sodium carbonate. That reaction results in the formation of carbon dioxide gas. Then saponin is there. Saponin produces foam. That foam will take that carbon dioxide and will come out through this nozzle at high pressure, and by this nozzle, the space wheresoever we place that foam, we pour that foam. The CO2 will breaks the contact of the substance with oxygen, and henceforth the fire get extinguished. जैसे ही नोब खींचेंगे बच्चे, aluminium sulfate will fall down into the solution, that is sodium carbonate. When aluminium sulfate comes in contact with sodium bicarbonate or sodium carbonate, it will produce carbon dioxide gas. And carbon dioxide along with the foam produced by the saponin comes out through nozzle. So that foam breaks the contact of oxygen to the combustible substance and henceforth extinguish the fire. Next we will discuss how to take care of the victims if they caught fire. If anyhow बच्चे in any accident, if a person catch fire, then how those victims should be taken care of. First thing बच्चे, we must have to bring that victim, that person out of the air, out of the place where the fire was or where the fire is. Why? Because बच्चे, burning of something will produce harmful gases like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, that are suffocating gases. They produce suffocation and breathlessness. Breathlessness means a person cannot keep its breath. सांस लेने में बहुत तकलीफ होती है बच्चे. So that may leads to death as well. So beta, the first thing is we should immediately bring out the fire victim to the open area, open space, so that that person does not suffer from suffocation and breathlessness. Because at the area where fire was, the gases like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide are in much abundance. So that's why we must bring them out in an open area for breathing. Second, the clothes of a fire victim must be removed. If that cloth, obviously cloth is a combustible substance, it will catch the fire. So we must have to remove them and cover the body of the victim by blanket. The blanket cuts the air supply and prevent a person from the catching fire again. So that's why we must have to cover that fire victim by the help of a blanket. Third one is we should pour water over the body of the fire victim. Why? Because water lowers down the temperature. वाटर जो है बच्चे बॉडी के टेम्परेचर को, बॉडी के एक्सटर्नल टेम्परेचर को लो कर देगा. So we must pour the water over the body of fire victim, as water brings down the temperature of the body, as well as water protects from the blisters on the skin. Skin पर बच्चे water filled sacs, water filled ulcers छाले ना हो. That for that particular reason we must pour water over the body of fire victim. So we must have to bring that fire victim to an open area so that that fire victim does not suffer from suffocation. We must have to cover the fire victim by help of a blanket so that the air supply, oxygen supply is cut down and that body's fire get extinguished, as well as that person cannot be able to catch the external fire. Next beta, we should pour water over the body of victim because water brings down the temperature of the body and it protects the body, of fire victim from the blisters on the skin. Next bache, the most common thing and most usual thing bache, we must call for an ambulance immediately from a nearby hospital for the first aid, for the other medical emergencies. So these precautions we should take care of for fire victims. These points must be taken care of for fire victims, the person who caught fire in any accident somehow. Next bache will discuss a very important topic of this chapter, flame. What is a flame bache? Flame is a region, it's an area where a fuel burns in its gaseous form. So the prerequisite condition for flame is the fuel must be in its gaseous form. There are certain fuels, which is solid fuels like coal and charcoal, which when burns does not produce any flame. कुछ ऐसे fuels भी हैं बच्चे जैसे कोल और चारकोल, जब वो बर्न होते हैं तो उससे फ्लेम प्रोड्यूस नहीं होती. Why? Because they remain in their solid form. They do not vaporize. They do not convert itself into gaseous form. And for the flame, it is must that a fuel must convert it into gaseous or vapor form. Only then that flame can be produced. So what is a flame? It is a region where combustion of fuel takes place in its gaseous form. That region is known as a flame. So it is a region where combustion of fuel in its gaseous form takes place and produce, obviously whenever a fuel burns, it produces heat and light energy. That region is known as a flame. The liquid fuels like petrol, diesel, kerosene, they produce flame. They are liquids, bache. How? First of all, when we provide them a small heat, bache, from the flame, these fuels will convert into vaporized form. In fact, bache, petrol does not require any heat because petrol's boiling point is very low. It starts to vaporize at very low temperatures. So it converts into vapor, but those vapors will burn very quickly. And fire is caught by the petrol very easily. That's why petrol's burning is a rapid combustion. It burns very rapidly to produce heat and light energy. Next thing, certain gaseous fuel, they are already in the gaseous form like LPG, CNG. They burns in air, they burns to produce a flame in air. Why? Because they are gaseous fuels, bache. They are already present in the vapor form. Next, some solid fuels also. Some solid fuels like wax, candle wax, camphor, kapoor bolte hain ise Hindi mein bache. They also burns to produce flame. Why? They are also highly evaporated, highly vaporizable. They converted into vapors very easily. That's why when they burn, they produce a flame as their vapors goes in air, and in the air they burns to produce a heat and light energy. That region is known as flame, bache.